Okay, I am going to do section 6.3 where the factoring of the trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, where a and b are coefficients, and we're not going to be able to unfactor the or factor the a out of the problem, so we're stuck with a number other than 1. So this is the grouping method that I've been showing you. And let's see, I'm going to just do two or three of these, I don't know. So let's see, if I do something like 2x squared and subtract 11x and plus 12. Okay, so here's the problem. I can't factor 2 out, so I'm stuck with it. So thus I'm going to go with the grouping method. So that means it's going to be 2 times the 12, which is 24. And I want 2 factors of 24. That'll get me negative 11. So because this is positive 24 and this is negative 11, I want 2 numbers that are negative. So that's going to be, let's see, how about negative 8 times negative 3? That equals positive 24. And when I add negative 8 and negative 3, it equals negative 11x. So here's my 2 numbers. And then I'll go on to step 3, and that is the important one, rewrite the problem. So that's going to be, copy down the 2x squared minus 8x minus the 3x. We have to add the x, remember, to get my middle term now, correct? And then finally copy down that last term of plus 12. Okay, here's our 4-term polynomial, what we want. So I'm going to group these into 2 binomials. You can use brackets or parentheses. My left side, I'm going to factor out a 2 and an x, and what's left when I divide it back? It's going to be x minus 4. Here, bring down my minus sign, and out of 3x and 12, the GCF is 3, and what's left over is x minus 4. Remember, whatever this is, this one's going to be, first of all, mathematically, negative 3x divided by negative 3 is x, and 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. Finally, I've got x minus 4, and what's left over is 2x minus 3. Okay. And there you have it, the first one. Try a second one. And I had one here. How about this one? Doesn't matter. I mean, I'm doing practice problem 4 on this one, but the challenge is for you to get that middle term. So this one I got 4x squared minus 3x, and that's going to be minus 2. Okay, let's say I'm going to add a y here for the xy term and y squared at the end. Let's do that as well for this one. So I can know that, well, let's just try it out as we're doing it. I can't get rid of the 14. I can't factor anything out of this equation, so I'm stuck with the 14 and the 2. That's the a and the c. So 14 times negative 2 is negative 28. And I want 2 factors of negative 28 that get me negative 3. So because this number is negative, my factors, one is going to be positive, one's going to be negative. So I'm just going to write down what I think in the back of my head. I'm looking for that difference of 3. So for 28, the first 2 numbers I think about is 7 and 4. 7 minus 4 is 3, so there's my possibility. It's negative 3, so that means the 7 has to be negative and the 4 has to be positive. Negative 7 plus 4 is negative 3. Okay, so I've got my factors, and I'm going to rewrite this problem now. So it's going to go like this. 14 x squared minus 7. And I'm going to make this xy. That's my middle term. So I got negative 7xy, and then it's going to be plus 4xy. And what's left is the minus 2y squared. Okay, we're good with that. Group them into the two binomials. And now this left side, I can factor out a 7x, and what's left over is 14 divided by 7 is 2. X squared divided by x is x. Minus 7xy divided by 7x is y. Bring down my plus sign. Oop, I don't want that yet. I want to factor out whatever I can here on the right side. So I got a 4 and a 2, so it looks like a 2 can come out. And between x's, I can't take an x out, but I can take a y out. So the y comes out, and what's left over when I divide back? 4 divided by 2 is 2. xy divided by y is x, minus 2y squared divided by 2y is y. Good. And I can see I got 2x minus y's. So one of these I'm going to factor out. Right? And I factored it out. What's left over is 7x plus 2y. I want to check this, make sure I did it right. So 2 times 7 is 2x times 7x is 14x squared. So that's a check. I want to check the last terms. Negative y times 2y is negative 2y squared. So that checks out all right too. So this is my answer. All right, that's for 6.3. Stop this a moment. Okay, so in this section, 6.6, I'm going to do a couple problems here in 6.6, starting with, well, it looks like I've got example 4 here in our textbook. Example 4. And what's new is this equal sign, which tells us now we're not only going to factor this trinomial, we are going to solve for x. So when we get an equation, a quadratic equation, where the equal sign is involved, what we have to do is get the equation equal to 6. Which means if there's anything over here on the right side of the quadratic on the left side, we have to add or subtract it away, so it all pushes over to the left side. And then I have 0 on the right. However, this problem is already 0 on the right, so I don't have to do anything other than factor this left side. So let's factor that, and I can see my lead coefficient is 1 here, which translates to me as being the easy kind of problem, because I can just set my parentheses up and fill it in. I know it equals 0 now, to reinforce the idea that, oh, I have to solve for this. So let's see, this means I have an x here and an x here, and I'll copy down the negative sign here, and if this is negative and this is negative, that means this sign here has to be positive, because a negative times a positive is a negative, and that's the negative with the 22. Alright, so my number here is 22. I mean, if you want to take the negative with you, you can. And I want two factors of negative 22 that add up to be negative 9. And what will that be? Okay, so I've got 11, and times 2 is 22. Not too many factors of 22. So I got 11 times 2. 11 minus 2 is 9, but I need what number to be negative here? So I get a negative 9. It would have to be the 11. Negative 11 plus 2 is negative 9. So that means this minus sign is here already, so I just need to put the 11 here, and the 2 can go here. I prearranged my signs to be, so because I want to get those correct. You don't have to, you can just say, oh, negative 11 and 2, then that would come over. Either way is fine. Alright, so now the critical part here is I've got to find what's called the critical numbers. What will make this statement true? So I'm going to take each of these x's in parentheses in this case and get it equal to 0. So for example, this first one here, this is x minus 11. X minus 11 equals 0, and I have to solve for x. So that just means I'm going to add 11 to both sides, right? So x equals 11. So when x equals 11, I would have 11 minus 11, which is 0. And then 0 times 11 plus 2. 11 plus 2 is 13. So 0 times 13 is 0. So this makes one of my solutions for x being 11. I'm going to do the same thing for the x plus 2 here. X plus 2 equals 0. Subtract 2 from both sides, and what do we got? I've got x equals negative 2. And if x equals negative 2, then this would be negative 2 plus 2, which is 0, and negative 2 minus 11, which is negative 13. So negative 13 times 0 is also 0. So this would be my second solution. I have two solutions. And what indicates you're going to have two solutions is the exponent in the original equation. X to the second power tells us that we could have up to two answers. And in this case we do, 11 and negative 2. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, here's another one, and here's the equation. And notice it's not equal to 0, so that's our first step. We've got to get the equation equal to 0, so that just means I want to subtract 8 from both sides. Subtract 8. Okay, if I subtract 8 from both sides on the left side here, we cannot combine these two. They're unlike terms, right? This is a 6x and this is just a constant 8. So I'm going to write this out as 5x squared minus 6x minus 8, that equals 0. Okay, so this is, make sure you don't combine those two. They're unlike terms. And now I've got this quadratic here equal to 0. So now what I want to do is factor it. I'm stuck with the 5, so that means I have to do the grouping method. So that's going to be 5 times negative 8 is negative 40. And I'm on two factors of negative 40, that'll get me negative 6. So when I think of 40, I think of 10 times 4. Check this out. 10 minus 4 is 6. That's good. So now just a matter of which number is negative, the 10 or the 4. And it'll be the 10, because negative 10 plus 4 is the negative 6. Let's rewrite the problem to be 5x squared minus 10x plus 4x minus 8. And all this equals 0. My 4-term polynomial is evident right there. And I'm grouping them like I did before, and factor each of these polynomials. So the left side I can take out a 5x, and what's left over is the x minus 2. Bring down my plus sign, and on the right side here I can take out a 4, and what's left is x minus 2. And of course it's still equal to 0. So I'm going to factor out the x minus 2, and what's left over, since I factored that out, is the 5x plus 4 equals 0. Okay, so I'm looking for my solutions now. Since it's factored, I'm going to take each of these binomials here and get it equal to 0. So I'm going to take this one first. I'll bring it out over here. X minus 2 equals 0. Add 2 to both sides. So x equals 2 is one of the solutions. Put it here with a comma. Now I want to take this one, 5x plus 4 equals 0, and solve for x. 5x plus 4 equals 0. Okay, so what I have to do here is subtract 4, and I've got 5x equals negative 4, and then I'm going to divide by 5. Oh, I should have given myself a little bit more room. 5x minus 4, no, 5x equals negative 4. That's where I'm at so far. This is negative 4. Put it here. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 5. So x equals negative 4 over 5 is my other solution. So go over here as negative 4 over 5. Okay, and there's my solution set. Write it up this way or this way is fine on our extra credit test. Do not mind which way you do it. Here's the other one over here. So link these two up that way, or you can write it in solution set form like that one. Okay, and let me throw in one more at you, which would go something like this possibly. And it's an easy one, but a lot of times students get confused with it. And it would be possibly something like 3x to the third, minus 12x. That equals 0. Okay, this is something to the third power. And what I want to do with something like this is just pull it apart. I want to factor it. It's already equal to 0, so there's nothing I have to add or subtract on the right side. I'm stuck with this binomial now. That's what this is. So what can I factor out of these two terms? I can factor out between 3 and a 12, a 3 can come out. And between x cubed and x, the x comes out. The smallest exponent, right? And then let's put back what's left over. 3x cubed divided by 3x is x squared. And then negative 12x divided by 3x is negative 4. That equals 0 now. Okay, so it's factored, and what I've got here is the 3x. It's not in a binomial, it's just this term. So I'm going to get that 3x equal to 0, and determine that when I divide both sides by 3, that x equals 0 for this x here, which makes sense. 3x equals 0, so x has to be 0, and that's one of my solutions to this problem. If x were 0, I'd plug it in over here. If x were 0 for this x and for this x, it would be 3 times 0 to the third, which is 0, minus 12 times 0, which is 0. And 0 minus 0 equals 0, Therefore 0 would equal 0. Okay, so it's true. The next one, I got to get this binomial, x squared minus 4. You know, it's in parentheses, so that's what tells me to use the binomial, and it equals 0. This way, x squared minus 4 equals 0. So now I could do this. It's equal to 0, but you know, I could do I could add 4 to both sides. And there, well, I'm looking to do the square root property. So here I'll bring down the x squared, which equals 4. And now how do I get x squared by itself? How do I do that? I'll bring it up here. A couple more steps. X squared equals 4. So in order to get to x by itself, I have to take the square root of it. The square root of x squared is x. What I do on the left side, I have to do on the right side. So I'll take the square root of 4 on the right side, which is 2. So x equals 2. But I have to note that it's positive or negative 2. And why is that? Because if I plug in negative 2 to the second power, I'd also get 4. Okay, just a little particular there. You'll learn more about this in Math 110 when you get to it. Right now we'll just use the square root property, and I'm basically just showing this to you. You'll be able to factor this x squared minus 4 by the sum and the difference of the same two terms, but I don't want to ruin it for your next instructor. Alright, so for this problem then I've got 3 answers. Remember, this is 3x to the third power, so again that tells me I could have up to 3 answers, and I do. I have x equals plus 2 or minus 2, and then I also have this one, that x equals 0. So there's 3 answers involved for this problem. Okay, and that's that for 6.6. Alright, goodbye.